It's Tuesday, the 20th of July, 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, the business news you need in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. In today's headlines, global share markets, including the ASX, fall sharply as the rise in COVID cases rattles investors. Meanwhile, the number of cases locally triggers new and extended lockdowns. Plus, disgraced former New South Wales Minister Eddie Obeid set for a long stint in jail. The superannuation sector reports its best returns in 24 years. And one of Australia's best-known investors calls cryptocurrencies a mass delusion. Our lead story today, the COVID news in Australia shows few signs of improving. In New South Wales, there were 98 locally acquired COVID-19 cases in the 24 hours to 8 p.m. Sunday night. 2/3 of the cases were in southwest Sydney and 20 were infectious in the community. There are now 82 people in hospital in New South Wales from coronavirus, of which 24 are in intensive care. Sadly, a fifth person from the current outbreak died yesterday. Premier Gladys Berejiklian said Australians will need to live with some level of restriction until vaccination rates rise, nominating 62% as the target rate before life could return back to normal. There were 13 new community-transmitted cases reported in Victoria yesterday, all linked to known cases. There were another 4 which are in isolation and will be reported in this morning's numbers. The Andrews government will still extend the lockdown beyond today, though construction will stay open in Victoria, unlike New South Wales. And 2 residents of South Australia tested positive yesterday, triggering new restrictions around gatherings, banning of community sport, and closure of non-essential retail in the state. The bad COVID news helped trigger a 0.9% drop in the local share market yesterday as investors reassessed the implications of the lockdowns. BHP and Rio Tinto both fell more than 2% after running hard last week. All the major banks were lower, not surprisingly, because lockdowns hurt earnings. The supermarket retailers were a touch stronger, given they benefit from shutdowns. In overseas news, Wall Street indices fell sharply overnight as fears about the pickup in COVID cases rattled investors, with economically sensitive stocks the worst performers. Numbers of cases are rising in many developed economies as the Delta variant spreads quickly, and there are concerns that the new wave will cull the economic rebound just as prices are starting to rise. European markets also tumbled in the worst days trading since last October. Oil prices tumbled 7% in the first day of trading after OPEC and its allies agreed to hike the supply of oil by 400,000 barrels a day. Also weighing on oil overnight were concerns of an economic slowdown. Brent crude is back down below $69 a barrel. That's good news, at least, for petrol prices. The United States, the United Kingdom and their allies have formally attributed the hack of the Microsoft exchange earlier in the year to people affiliated with the Chinese government. In a further escalation of tensions, the group accused Beijing's leadership of an array of malicious cyber attacks, including ransomware, data theft, and cyber espionage attacks. The group said Beijing was protecting the attackers. And in what I'm afraid is going to be a regular report over the next couple of weeks, around 30 Olympians in Tokyo are now in strict isolation. The South African soccer team and the British track and field team have been hit hardest. Locally, disgraced former New South Wales MPs Eddie Obeid and Ian McDonald and Mr Obeid's son Moses face extensive jail terms after being found guilty of conspiring to grant a lucrative coal mine licence in 2009. Justice Elizabeth Fullerton in the New South Wales Supreme Court yesterday found that Mr McDonald had committed a gross departure from his responsibilities as Resources Minister and had denigrated the public office. The superannuation sector had its best result in 24 years last financial year, with the median growth fund posting an 18% return. 8 funds managed to deliver returns of more than 20%, according to research house Chant West. The best performing funds, not surprisingly, had a higher allocation to listed shares. Last week, I told you about the story, based on media reports, that the federal government had asked Telstra and other businesses to purchase a 3G network called Digicel Pacific in Papua New Guinea to prevent it falling into Chinese hands. Yesterday, Australia's biggest telecom provided a slightly different spin. Telstra said it was in discussions with Digicel regarding a potential acquisition in partnership with the Australian government. The company said it was first approached by Canberra to provide technical advice and now it was looking at buying Digicel, though nothing had been agreed upon. Any deal would need significant government funding and a support package, Telstra said. I still think it's a remarkable situation when the government calls on the private sector to do its national security work. And finally, in the world of funds management in Australia, Hamish Douglass, the co-founder of Magellan, is a bit of a rock star. People listen to what he says. He's come out hard against cryptocurrencies, saying they are one of the greatest mass delusions in modern history. Mr. Douglass said it was inevitable cryptos crash to zero, notwithstanding that the markets of the two biggest, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are worth around $1.5 trillion. That's the Fear and Greed business headlines for today. Make sure you hit follow so you get it every morning. And if you'd like more detail and more stories, search for our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. We also release a daily interview. Today, we're talking to the boss of one of the oldest buy now, pay later groups in the country. I'll be back later with the afternoon market report. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.